Hi everyone and welcome back. My name is Sandra and today I'm going to be filming my March book wrap up. So I read 2 books in March, 2 graphic novels and a poetry collection. So I'm going to start in the order that I read them in, and the first book I'm going to speak about is Who Fears Death. This is by Nnedi Okorafor. This book is talking about the main character named Nnedi, who is a child of rape. So her mother was raped by an opposing tribe. Her mother is part of the tribe that is the Okeke, who are the dark-skinned, and then there's the Nuru people who are the light-skinned. So Nnedi is a mixed-race child, and they're sort of like the outcast in their society, because usually children of her colour are born from violence, such as things like rape. This book is set in post-apocalyptic Sudan, so it's very different from what I usually read, but that's where the book is set. And then she grows up in this city, village, town. I'm really bad at things like that, and she is basically outcasted from the community. She really tries her best to fit in. She goes to school and things like that, and there is things to do with like her normal day-to-day. You sort of see, like, she talks about her life growing up and that's all fine, and then as it happens there's a quest that she has to go on. So she embarks on a quest with some friends, and to sort of go and fight basically her father. Her father is like some strong villain demon thing, and yeah, because she is very powerful, she is the only one that can defeat him. So as she's growing up, she's coming into these powers and just learning all sorts of different things. That is honestly the basic premise of the book. It's her growing up, sort of learning about herself. So that is what the book is about. The quest maybe is like this chunk of the book, and her seeing like her father and defeating him is this chunk of the book. So that's what I'm going to talk about first, as to why I did not like this book. There are several reasons as to why I did not like this book, and obviously this is my first sort of way of delving into sort of fantasy, sci-fi, and also reading like something that's from an African author or like set in Africa. So it ticks a lot of the boxes of books that I wanted to try this year. The reason why I didn't like this book is the reason I said before. You think you're embarking on this huge quest, and you know you're going to get a lot of the meaty stuff of when she meets her father and you know what happens there. You don't. What you get instead is a very long journey to finding her father, and just loads of bits in between that were so bloody irrelevant that I was just like, I don't care. I mean, a lot of cool things happen on her trip, but I feel like it could have been completely compressed down so that we got more of the ending. The other thing that I didn't like about this book was the fact that, so Nnedi, who is called Onye as for short, starts growing into her powers. Initially you're a bit confused as to, you know, where she gets these powers from and all these sorts of things. She starts growing into her powers, but it just seems to be like there is nothing that this girl can't do. She's like the all super powerful being. And I just found that really annoying. I was like, surely there should be something that she can't do. But it just seemed like every single power she had, and she was able to do things without even being taught, and then it was just like, surprise. But naturally she does find a sort of, I guess, teacher who doesn't want to teach her in the first place, and there's a lot of misogyny in this, in the fact that she has powers that are so powerful but really they're not meant for women. She should have been a boy that would have been sort of enchanted with that power, but she turns out to be a girl, which is a disappointment to everyone basically. So yes, one of my issues was the fact that she could do everything without sort of like learning that power and sort of, I guess, harnessing that power. But whatever, maybe that's what happens in sort of fantasy, sci-fi novels. That is perfectly fine. The book tackles female genital mutilation. It writes about it in a very graphic way. Honestly, like the thought of it just makes me shudder. And I thought that was very interesting. And there is a lot of talk of, you know, sexual assault in this book. Girls, I guess, having intercourse before this process, and just basically what that process involves. And this village that they're in, or this town that they're part of, it's very heavily like encouraged that they do this there. They see this as, you know, a rite of passage for women. She technically actually doesn't have to have it done, especially because she's the mixed race kid and born of violence, and her mum doesn't actually want her to have it done. So she gets it done in secret as a way of fitting in. And I thought that was a very interesting way of sort of, I guess, placing us into this world that she was in, of how she would try to fit in with other people. And it's very interesting because then by this, like, I guess, rite of passage, all the girls that go through it together at that same sort of ceremony on that night are then sort of bound together, so they then sort of have to be friends, which I thought was really nice. But obviously the girls think she's a bit odd because she's the mixed race girl. Anyway, all of that happened, you know. I can't even remember how, like, she learns she has to embark on this journey to go and defeat her dad, but she does. She embarks on this journey, takes her friends with her. So then all what you have for the next, I don't know, like 200, 300 pages is the journey when they stop in different villages. What happens in the different villages? Is there more Nurus in the village? Is there more Okekes in the village? Do they still think like the mixed race people are violent, like they get treated differently in different places? Interactions between her friends, so her 3 friends come along, her boyfriend comes along, another friend's boyfriend comes along, and then it's all just this thing of like teenage life of who's sleeping with who and who's doing what with who and who's having a great time now that they're not in their village and not being supervised by their parents. I just didn't understand why any of this was occurring. Some sad things do happen along the way, all very interesting. The fact that this is set in the post-apocalyptic Sudan, I don't really think you get much world building either. I was reading it thinking this could have taken place anywhere, because it just seemed to be talking about as they're travelling through, they're just in villages in Africa. For me, the story was just long and drawn out, and I was also just bitterly disappointed that it was just more about the quest and the journey than what happened when she got there. And it just seemed like she had so many points to sort of defeat her father, and then she just chose not to. She would pull back. So then we would go further into the journey. And, you know, it's really odd because you get to meet her father, you know, in the beginning you know what he's done, you know he's done some despicable things, but you don't ever hear from the dad really, you don't ever hear why he did those things. So he's just this evil character that she's got to defeat, and there's nothing to it. And I just felt like, I know the story isn't about him, we're not trying to place the story about the villain, but it would have been nice to have a bit of a backstory maybe. You hear a bit about his history, but you don't actually hear about why he committed that horrific act, and, you know, why he wanted a boy. You can assume that he wanted a boy because he was going to train the boy to be the most powerful sorceress or whatever, sorcerer. Honestly, this book just wasn't what I expected it to be. It sounded really good, but then in the end it was just about a bunch of like teenagers going on a quest. And some of them had powers and some of them didn't. I am done with this book. Like, I'm still going to read more by her, but what I wanted to do was read this and see if I would like her before I would embark in reading, like, I guess her trilogy. But I think I might just start reading the trilogy and see if it's any better. But for me, this just wasn't the book that I expected it to be. Too long, no real plot or anything like that. But I do know that this is being made into a TV series, so I think maybe as a TV series it might work a lot better. It might. The next book I'm going to speak about is Don't You Forget About Me by Mhairi McFarlane. I requested this from NetGalley. I gave this book a 2 out of 5. I think I originally gave it a 1 out of 5, but I think that was a bit harsh. The premise of this book is we have a character, Georgie. She's living her life, working in bars, you know, she's nearing 30. She gets fired from her job at a restaurant in a really hilarious scene. Goes back home, goes back to her boyfriend's place and finds that he's cheating on her, ends a relationship, and then life begins from there. Gets a new job at a pub, and meanwhile you are having like little flashbacks of what it was like when she was in school when she fell in love with the boy. She gets hired at this pub, and surprise, surprise, the owner turns out to be this guy, except he doesn't recognise her. So you know all of this from the back of the blurb in the book anyway. So then the story continues, and you know, she develops like, you know, a bit of attachment to him, but then she's also like trying to figure out her own life. She has issues going on with like her parents telling her, you know, what are you doing with your life? You're nearly 30, like you're still working in a bar, all that sort of jazz. And meanwhile, her and this character Lucas are getting closer, but they're not getting closer. It's all a big jumble. And the story ends as you would think it ends. He does know who she is. He's just pretending he doesn't know who she is. Whatever, that's fine. I mean, I don't know why it was such a huge suspense in the back of the book if that was just going to be the reveal. Because I thought maybe, I don't know, he had amnesia or something like that and he didn't remember her. No, that's not the case at all. He just pretended, for a very valid reason, because, you know, when you're 17, 16 and someone breaks your heart in that way, it's very hurtful. So I completely get why he behaves the way he did. Anyway, you get the big reveal. Everyone, you know, eventually becomes happy families and all that sort of stuff, but it's not without its twists and turns. So I guess what I didn't like about the book was the fact that was just the reveal at the end. That, I guess the end, that was like 70% of the book, it was into the book. Fine, whatever, if that's your plot, that's your plot. But I just didn't like it. So what I did like, however, was the character Georgina. She made me laugh so much. She made me laugh so much because she wasn't your classic, like, oh, I fell in love, like I found the guy, he remembers me and now I fell in love and everything is fine. She was like so independent and so strong, even though everyone was like basically telling her that she was shit and that her life was shit and that she should get her act together. You know, she kept on ploughing on, and I really have to admire that, because I couldn't do that in that situation if my family and people around me were just telling me that I wasn't good at stuff. At the pub, they started sort of using their function room for like an open mic night, and you know, she was doing an English degree, dropped out for certain reasons, but English was one of her favourite subjects, so she starts writing to sort of perform stuff, and it's just really nice to sort of see her journey as she's encouraged by her friends. So it's really nice to see her develop independently of the story with the guy, because it wasn't like her sort of happiness or her future depended on him, because there is a part in the book where he does go away, like, you know, everything's all cool, you think, oh yeah, they're going to be together, but then that doesn't happen, but her life still carries on regardless. And I feel like her character showed a lot of strength and a lot of development, and I really enjoyed that about the book. She had a great group of friends who I was really confused by, because they had loads of little subplots, but I also thought one of them was a boy, and it turned out it was a girl. Overall, it was just a light, easy read, but I just didn't like the reveal was that, so I had to give it a 2 out of 5. But it's not an awful book. You could read it and laugh, because there are some really fucking funny bits in there, but it's not one that I would read again. The next book that I'm going to speak about is Running Upon the Wires by Kate Tempest. Can't really see that. Fun fact, my friend is acting in a play in London, where she's basically performing loads of characters, and she's just one person. She's performing like 48 characters. But she got to meet Kate Tempest because Kate Tempest came to see her play, which I think was just really nice. Anyway, read this. I gave this a 2 out of 5. You can see that my reading month wasn't that great. I didn't hate this, but I didn't love it. And I think because the first Kate Tempest I ever read was The Bricks That Built the Houses, and I absolutely adored that book. It was so magical to me that I was just like blown away. And I have mentioned before that I like reading. There was a poetry collection of hers that I read. Is that true? No, it was Let Them Eat Chaos, which is her long poem that I read, which I absolutely loved, and that I don't really like her reading voice. This collection is something I think that's quite different from her, usually from what she writes, and this is basically about love, about relationships, and I guess the breakdown of relationships and sort of how you feel after. So it is split into 3 sections, and I think the 3 sections are, so it's, yeah, the beginning, the middle, the end. So it talks about obviously when you're very loved up, and the middle, you know, when all the fights come, and the end, that just sort of breakdown. I honestly, it's not the fact that I don't like love poems or the topic that this was on, I just didn't really connect to any of the poems in this. They just felt very far removed from me. They felt very simple. A lot of them are really short, which is fine, but a lot of them are like this length, and they just don't really seem to say much. Or some of the poems are quite long like that, so that's split over 2 pages. But there was nothing for me to connect to in any of this. They were just too simple for me, and I don't mean that by saying everything needs to be metals and stuff, because that's actually not the kind of poetry I like, at least in terms of contemporary poetry. But there was just nothing in any of the poems that really drew me to them. It was very just like observational, writing down thoughts on a paper, and I didn't think it was her best work. It's not the best thing I like from her. I did bookmark one poem that which is called Duet, which was something that it started off really well. The middle bit does look a bit ropey, but it has the vibes that I like. It just doesn't have a lyrical feel that I feel like Let Them Eat Chaos has. Let Them Eat Chaos felt spectacular. It felt like she was capturing this emotion of lonely people all around London, and I thought it was really well done the way she was able to link it all together. This just feels really bitty and broken, and it's just thoughts on a page, with no real sense of it being crafted together. And yeah, I guess it is an expression of a time in her life, so I guess that's fine. I really like the title, Running Upon the Wires. I think it's a lovely title, and I love the cover. It's got the sort of blue foiling with the text, but as a collection, it was very, very weak for me. The last two books I'm going to talk about are these graphic novels, the Lumberjanes, so volume 1 and volume 2. This is volume 1. So I gave them both 3 out of 5. I actually preferred the second one to the first one. I gave it a 3 out of 5 because I did like this. I thought it was really cute. I was reading it thinking, oh my god, this is so boring and it's for like a really young audience. Like, no, I don't like this. But then it was getting to the end, and then it gets to the last page, and I was just like, I want to know what happened. So it really captured my interest, and I liked that quick switch. And I like that little bit of a cliffhanger. One thing I like about this as well is it has what they call variants, I guess. So then like different artists who have drawn the different characters. But essentially what Lumberjanes is about. Lumberjanes is about this group of girls who are at a summer camp, and they're sort of like, it's like brownies or scouts, I guess. Brownies like if you're in the UK, scouts I guess in America. And they're sort of learning like survival skills and just how to be, you know, a good person. They have to learn all these different skills. But there is something abnormal going on. They're in the woods, strange things are happening. They go like canoeing or kayaking and, you know, get attacked by like a water monster. Like, it's got a lot of different themes in it. It's like they're normal girls, but then it's just like, here's some supernatural weird things that are happening that there's no rhyme or reason for. But it's still really enjoyable to read. And it's just very light-hearted, definitely for a younger audience, but it does just make you smile. Like there's a bit where they're trying to figure out these anagrams, and they're just using the different skills that they've learned on this camp. One of the best things is they're running circles around their sort of camp leader Jen, who is just like militant on trying to get them on the course of, you know, you need to learn these skills, and then they're just running circles around her. They don't mean to, but things just happen, and then they end up running circles around her. So then there's a cliffhanger in this one, which obviously picks up in volume 2. And volume 2 is really cool. I enjoyed volume 2 so much. I did give them both a 3 out of 5, but I just found it was hilarious. It was very funny. It's more supernatural random things happening. And like I said, there's no rhyme or reason for it, but you don't take it too seriously that there's no rhyme or reason to it. The artwork is fantastic, and like it just really develops the characters a bit more, and there is also like LGBTQ plus representation in here. The characters are so cute, and then there's also the fact that they're bringing in like there's 2 other characters that are they're Greek gods. I just can't remember the name of the characters now. So it brings that sort of element into it, and then they're sort of embarking on a quest to try and stop them doing the evil things that they're doing, and it's just funny. But honestly, it's just a bit of fun. It's actually a really good read. I was halfway through the first one thinking, God, I do not want to read this, and then it got to the end, I really liked it. It got to this one and I was like, I love it, it's brilliant. It's a nice like little easy read, and it just makes me laugh. So yeah, really enjoyed that. So that is it for my March wrap up. March wasn't a great reading month. March also was a bit of a funny month for me. March just felt really long. But I am reading a book right now that I'm thoroughly enjoying. So hopefully there will be no more 2-star reads. But we shall see. But let me know if you've read any of these books, what you thought about them, and I will see you in my next video, which I know will be a bookshop and sort of book haul video. Because I visited some bookshops in Glasgow. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!